Recording. All right. So a lot of times in classes, I go pretty fast, and there may be a basic thing that you don't know that I have not discussed. And so you don't know, like, how did she open that ink pad, or how did she get that paper cut just that way that's in my nice little package. So I'm going to try to show you a lot of basics tonight. It'll be an hour. We'll stop at 8. If it's still 8 and I'm going, then someone throw something in the chat, because I tend to get crazy. But just hold your questions to the end, and then you can ask them. Also, if you're on Facebook Live, at some point I'll try to go back over there and see if there are any questions. So I don't have both of them going right now because I'm using my computer here, and then I'm also using my phone for where I'm going to show you about the stamping. So does anybody have any questions before we start? They can put it in the chat. All right. Now I'm going to mute everybody so that we can have a clean recording. And then you're going to see my crafting area is going to pop up. This is a little bit higher level technical stuff we got going on here. You're going to hear some interference for a second. Two. And I have to start. No, we're getting there. So pretty soon y'all should see. Okay, I gotta flip this around because it's just showing my ceiling fan, which you guys don't want to see. All right, now you should see the stamp set and a little piece of magazine here. And let me get this video pinned. All right. It's always a miracle when this happens. I'm just going to make sure there's nobody else trying to get in. All right. I'm going to smooth that over there. Okay. Yay. So you're going to see me right here. This is where you're wanting to look. And there may be a little bit of a delay. Can you hear me? Patience, can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear me? Okay. Very good. Okay, so welcome to Stampin' Basics. I am so excited. Like I said, my list of things to tell you got longer as the day went on. So I'm going to cover as much as I can in an hour, and then, or in what we have left until 9 o'clock. So, oh, and I can't, oh, there's a clock right here above me. So that's good. Good old analog clock. So we're going to just start with a stamp set. Our stamps come in sets, and our stamps come in 2 different types. We have photopolymer sets and cling stamp sets, and they're different. So let me show you the difference. A cling stamp set is red rubber, okay, and it's pretty thick. It has this cushion to it. This was originally what our stamps were made like. And then we started making photopolymer stamps, which are these clear stamps. Now, don't panic, because these photopolymer stamps, the ink stays on them forever, and they still stamp just fine. So they may get black ink on them, they may get red ink on them, and that's fine. Our red rubber stamps, the ink comes all the way off. So, but just saying, don't panic. So these photopolymer sets are completely see-through and clear. So that makes them great for layering. And then these are squishy, and they just work in different ways. So I'm going to show you this. These stamps don't require any assembly, okay, the photopolymer stamps. All you do to get ready to use them is grab a clear block, which we sell multiple sizes of clear blocks. This is a D block, which is the one I like the best. Put your stamp down. I actually recommend that you put your stamp in the corner rather than the middle, because there's less likelihood that you'll get a bunch of ink all over your hands. So we're going to put this away. We're going to come back to him later. But I'm going to show you how to assemble your red rubber stamps. So these stamps come in boxes, and they're ready to use. You can stick that right on and go ahead and use it if you want, but it's best if you put the labels on. So this is a little sheet that comes in here, and it's got labels on it. And you will just need to find the label that matches the stamp set. So we can see this celebrating you, and this celebrating you is what we're looking for. So, and actually I'm going to assemble this stamp because we're about to use it. We're going to assemble this happy birthday stamp. So what you're going to do is peel off this backing, and you're going to set this down. Oh, someone else is waiting to get in. All right, so you're going to set that down, press it in, and then pull it up. This stuff is super sticky, okay? It's called cling, and it really sticks. Like if you've been with Stampin' Up! For a while and haven't put a stamp set together, then you know our stamps used to not stick very well, but this cling is clingy. So no worries about that. You won't have any trouble. And it sticks right down to the block. And then you can see exactly where your sentiment is going to be. So I'm going to set that aside because we're going to use it later. All right, so that's how you assemble your stamps. I did talk about the clear block. You can see that we sell a wide variety of clear blocks. I like the B, C, and D blocks, and then you definitely need the E. So I did a poll recently on my group to see what blocks everyone uses, but I think B, C, D, and E will pretty much cover it. I don't find a real need for F because in a background stamp, I usually just take my paper and place it on the actual stamp. And then you also need the I. So for really long stamps, you're gonna need that I block. But those are your clear blocks that you need. But I always recommend that you start with D because it pretty much covers everything. And then E is a good second one to have. So you got some clear blocks, and I like to have more than one, just because if you just have one, then you're going to be taking things off and on and off and on. So I'm not sure how clearly you can see this. I'm just going to leave it still for a second and let it focus. But these are our different types of stamps. Like we just talked about, we've got cling or rubber stamps, and then photopolymer, which are see-through. So the red rubber stamps we like because you can stick the labels on, but then you can also color them with markers. So you can use your Stampin' markers to make them 2 colors. All right. And then the photopolymer stamps are great because you can layer them. So you can get 2 different sets of color going. You can layer, like this is 2 stamps on 1 block. So actually 3. You've got the little B, this saying, and then that saying. So you can stack it up. You can make a pattern because you can see right through there. And then you can align these stamps. So you see this dark gray and then this light gray. So that's why we have 2 different kinds of stamps. They both work wonderfully. So there's no worries about which type to buy because you like them all. The other thing I'll tell you is these polymer stamps that are clear, you are going to need a squishy surface underneath this. Now, the squishy surface that I'm using right now is called a Stampin' Pierce Mat. And it is we sell it, but it is actually retiring. So if you're watching this video after June the 2nd, then you can use a Stamparatus mat, which we sell. There's other things that you can use, but you just need something with some cushion. if you don't have a Stampin' Pierce mat yet, then you need to go ahead and get it because it is retiring. So anywho, you just stick your little stamp down here, and then because this is a real solid stamp, then you really are going to need that Stampin' Pierce mat underneath. Let me just try to demonstrate what happens if you don't do it, because this panics people all the time. They think their stamp isn't working properly. So we're just going to stamp without our Pierce mat. And you see there's a space right there that's open, didn't stamp very well. So if you use the Stampin' Pierce mat and you ink up your stamp, then you're not going to have that open image there. Okay, so you're going to get a lot crisper image with your Stampin' Pierce mat. And you only need it under the polymer stamps. I'm the person that needs to understand why, because you see this cling stamp has foam in it already. That gray section is foam, but the polymer stamp does not have any foam in it. So that's why you need the foam. I tend to understand things better when I know why rather than just memorize it. So that's the why on that. Okie doke. So get yourself a Stampin' Pierce mat if you don't already have it. If you are my customer, I can help you get any of these things. If you are Patient's customer, she can help you get any of these things. If you are Rebecca's, whoever your Stampin' Up! Demonstrator is, then you go to them and get these items that you may or may not already have. Okay, so that is.
It's true that the rubber lasts longer than the polymer. This is Amy.
Yes, the rubber is lasts longer than the polymer. That's true. And I'm sorry, Amy, I am going to mute you for now. Just save your questions to the end. My computer is saying my network bandwidth is low. I don't even know what that means. So I'm just going to keep on talking and hope that it continues to work. Can y'all still see me? Okay, I don't really know what that means, but all right. Yes, so write your questions down at the end. I'm gonna get back on, unmute everybody, and let you know, answer all your questions. Okay, so let's talk the Stampin' trimmer. This is an awesome trimmer. I tend to use my trimmer upside down. I don't know why, but this is just the way I've always used a trimmer. So I'm going to show you how I use it. You can use it a different way if you'd like. So our trimmer is 12 plus inches by 17 inches, okay? And the way you make it longer is you open up that arm, all right? So for a lot of your card making, though, you don't have to open up that arm, but just be aware that you can use this trimmer to cut 12 by 12 paper. It's got a scoring blade, and the way I remember that is because it's gray, so it doesn't cut as much. And then the cutting blade is this darker gray, almost black, okay? So you can cut and score with one tool, which is awesome. And you can see it's got like a recessed edge right here. You're going to need to use that, so be aware of that. And I'll show you how I would make a card base. All right, so let me just show you first what types of pieces we use to make cards. So the two types of card bases are these two. You can either make a tall card with a 4 1/4 by 11 scored at 5 1/2, and that's either a window or a tall card. So you see that's what it would look like. And then you can make a short card. So it's 5 1/2 by 8 1/2 scored at 4 1/4. So that's how you make the two different types of cards that you would see. And be aware that one piece of paper makes two card bases. Okay, and I'm going to show you how that works. So let's make a tall card. So like I said, the tall card is 4 1/4 by 11 scored at 5 1/2. So let me show you how that works. You're going to bring your paper in from the left, okay, and you're going to line it all the way up with 4 1/4. Now, if you're doing the 4 1/4, you don't want to do it this way. You want to do it this way. Okay, so 4 1/4, because that way you'll get 2 halves of your paper. Let me move this over so you can see that situation. So 2 halves if you do it at 4 1/4. If you did it the other way at 4 1/4, you're going to waste a lot of paper. So let's go to 4 1/4. And then remember, we're going to use our black cutting blade. And then you've got 2 pieces to make 2 cards. All right. And then to score, you're going to do the same thing, but at this time you're going to go to 5 1/2 right here. And then you're going to use the gray blade, and that makes an indentation on the paper. That's what scoring means. And that makes it to where it folds super easy when you're making the card. So you don't have to work at getting that folded. Okay, now to make this other size card, the 5 1/2 by 8 1/2 card, then you're going to take a piece of paper and you're going to put it in the other direction. So this is the other direction, okay, the short way. And then you're going to cut it at 5 1/2, turn it, and this you're going to score at 4 1/4. So these are your kind of magic numbers to make cards. The 2 different kind of magic numbers to make your card bases. Okay. Now, let's talk about the layers. So I'm going to leave these up here. Hopefully y'all can still see that. So our next layer is going to be 5 1/4 by 4. This is just your standard card layer. And it will fit right here. So that fits right, tucks right inside, but leaves a little bit around the edges, okay? And then your next layer we like to do is missing, but let's get our white paper back out. We had a piece of white paper earlier, and we'll just cut it. So this layer is going to be 5 by 3 3/4. So that makes this inner layer. Okay, so that you can, doing that, you can just make your standard card. Now, I'm not saying every card you make has to be like this, okay? I'm just saying that this is a great place to start. You can always vary it, okay? Like one of my favorite things to do is to take this 5 by 3 3/4 layer down a notch. And so let's go 4 3/4. So you see, I'm just taking a quarter off every time by 3 1/2. So that makes it just a little bit more interesting, just different than what you normally see on a card base. So my point is this: for it to be symmetric, just walk off the same amount from both sides, and you're going to need from 2 sides, and you'll be fine. Okay. So, but these are kind of your standard layers right here. I'm going to put these all back up for you. And this same layers fit on this other card base too. Okay. So your tall card and your short cards use the same layers. Nothing complicated there. Okay. So that's how we layer cards and how we cut and score. And let's talk now about ink pads. So we have lots of wonderful, wonderful colors of ink pads. And I just want to show you all the different colors that we have. We've got a group of subtles, a group of regals, neutrals, and brights. So I don't know what your favorite group is, but I'm a brights girl. But they all have their place in my crafting. So I actually, of course, have all the colors. But these are all of our colors, and you can see you can get cardstock, ink pads, and ink refills in all the colors, okay? And some of the colors you can get blending markers in. So, but then the markers, you buy the markers in families of markers. So all the subtles markers, all the regals markers, the neutrals markers, and the brights markers come in a pack. So that's nice to have all the colors that you need in that family. And you can buy the paper either in a pack by itself or in a combination pack, and you can get a 12 by 12 combination pack. So that's how our colors work. But I'm going to focus right now on our inks. Okay, so I actually found this ink pad. I was excited because most of my ink pads are already assembled, and I thought, well, you guys need to see how we assemble an ink pad. Well, I found one that wasn't assembled, and this is going to be my prize for tonight. So if you stay till the end, I'm going to do a drawing, and someone's going to get
pick me.
A gorgeous, great ink pad. So that's exciting. Okay, let's see. So it comes, you have to unwrap it, and that's good because every now and then they get a little over inked. So when it's wrapped up, then that means it's not going to, if the ink somehow leaks out, it won't get all over your stuff. But on the back, you'll find these stickers. So you're going to peel off this whole sticker, okay? And I just go and get the one that says Gorgeous Grape. You can see there's other options for different languages, but we're going to go with our English version of Gorgeous Grape. And then all you're going to do is turn it, you're going to act like it's looking at you, and then turn it up towards you, okay? And then you're just going to stick this down right here. So that way, when all your ink pads are lined up nicely in their shelf, you can see what it is from the top and the side or the back. You can even use these extra things to do it on this side, but I like having the thing on one side so I know exactly which way to shove it into my holder. So anyway, that's how you put your label on your ink pad. Now, let's talk about what happens if it runs. Oh, first we have to open it. So this is a brand new ink pad, so it's a little tight. But what I've learned is if you put your two fingers, hold it in both hands and put your thumbs here where the color is and squeeze, then that pops right open. Okay, so it's really not as hard as you make it out to be. Just squeeze and it pops open. Okay, and then what you're going to do is swing it around and slide it in like that. Okay, so then it's ready to use. Oh, and then I forgot about the other ink thing, and now it's stuck down to my paper. See if I can pull it up. Oh, good. So there's also a solid ink color sticker that goes on the inside, and this is outstanding because we didn't used to have this. And so when all your ink pads were out on the table at class or something, you didn't know which one was which because when they're open, they all look the same. So you stick that sticker in there, and then you can see while you're working what color your ink is. Okay, but let's pretend like this ink pad has too much ink on it. Sometimes our ink pads come over inked, and that's fine. Like, no worries, it's just got extra ink on it. We can always take ink away. So what I do is I actually get a piece of whisper white scrap, and I just put it right over my ink pad and just press it firmly. Okay, or even you can pick up the ink pad and press it into the paper. And then just pull it off, and you can see that will pull off a whole nice layer of ink there. Got some paper on it. So that is how you get the ink out of your pad. And then let's say, oh, I did that way too much, and now my ink pad's not working properly. Well, now we have to re-ink it. So let's talk about that. And I can see I got a little fuzz on here. Pull that off. Okay, so re-inking. The first thing you want to do is like at the hospital. Check and make sure, okay, gorgeous grape, gorgeous grape. Make sure that you're inking the right color to the right ink pad. My sister inked the wrong color once though, and she rinsed it out and started over and it worked. So you can do that. But check and make sure you've got the right ink color. And then what I do is I usually do about 10 or 15 drops of the ink. So, and I just spread them out like so. But you can see it kind of just sits there on the surface at first. So what I do is I get one of my clear blocks and I just rake that clear block right over the surface of the ink gently. You don't want to smash it really hard, but you just are spreading that ink out over the ink pad. Okay. And then that's pretty messy, and we can use our Stampin' scrubber, which we're going to talk about in a minute, but I'll go ahead and get it out for now, just for my own use, but I don't want to jump ship yet. We're going to get to that in a second. So now your ink pad is nice and inked. And if you over ink it, just remove some of the ink. So no worries, like don't freak out if your ink's not exactly how it needs to be, because you have perfect control over if it needs to be more or less inky. I do recommend that you always buy the re-inker when you buy the ink pad, because you're never going to be like, oh, I don't need that ink pad right now. You're right in the middle of a project and then you run out of ink and you're mad. So just get your re-inker as you get your ink pads, so you've got them all ready to go. Let's see. Okay, let's talk about the different types of ink pads. So we have a classic. These are water-based ink pads, which means they'll wash off your hands pretty easily. They're not permanent, and they're great for stamping. I don't think anyone has a better water-based ink pad than Stampin' Up. I'm just going to go ahead and say that. We have a Memento ink pad that is used for, I use it almost exclusively for blending, but it's also a great black ink pad because we don't have a classic water-based dye ink black pad. Okay, so Memento is what we have. And this is the Memento re-inker that you're going to use to re-ink that. We have a StazOn ink pad with its re-inker. And actually StazOn has its own special cleaner because it's so strong. And then we have a Versamark pad. Okay, so these are your 4 different kinds of ink pads. This ink is used when you're stamping, just right onto a card, color onto white. That's all you're doing there. Memento is used for when you're when you just want a black image, but also when you're using blending markers, which we're going to do later. So we'll get back to that, but you're going to use Memento when we're doing blending. Now, you need to buy the re-inker for a Memento pad, because Memento, I think of it like the Sharpie of ink pads. This stuff is very permanent, but it evaporates pretty quickly. So you definitely want to buy the Memento re-inker when you purchase the Memento ink pad. So let's talk about StazOn. StazOn stamps on anything and everything permanently. Okay, so if you want to stamp on a stone coaster, you can do that. If you want to stamp on acrylic, you can do that. Once it's dried, it's permanent. You can get it off with StazOn cleaner, so that's why we sell a special kind of cleaner. But it's a great black, and it is what we would use when we're coloring with watercolor pencils. So that's one of the reasons why we would use StazOn. But you need to go ahead and get the re-inker and the cleaner when you get StazOn. Versamark is a neat product. This is used, the 2 main reasons I use it, I'm sure there's probably 15 reasons to use it, but the 2 main reasons I use it are for embossing. So you can see it's got glitter in it and it's kind of messy because I use it mostly for embossing. But you can also stamp what I call tone on tone. So I'm going to grab one of these coral. This is Calypso Coral, and I'm going to show you how we're going to stamp with Versamark onto this Calypso Coral, and it's going to look like you stamped on it with Calypso Coral, but it's a little bit lighter than that. So it's not as dark as tone on tone. But the cool thing is you can just fill it in like as a background, and it's a subtle thing that you see. It's really cool when you do flowers this way, and it kind of dries a little bit darker than it stamps. So I'm not sure if you can see that, but that's a neat thing that we use Versamark for, but we mostly use it for heat embossing. And there is a reinker that you need to purchase with that too. I just don't have it on the table here. So those are all of our different types of ink pads and what we use them for. Now let's talk about how to stamp. So it's not just the most super intuitive thing for you to know how to stamp. Sometimes I even forget to tell people that. So first you're going to grab your layers that were used to make your card base and your layer and your top layer. We're going to stamp on the white part. And I usually, when I'm stamping, I just start with the white part. And I do that first because you don't want to assemble your card and then be stamping later. So start with the stamping first and then do the assembling. So I'm going to show you how you would do some stamping. And what's a good technique when you're stamping. So I'm going to pull out this stamp from the Birthday Jubilee stamp set. It's one of my favorites. It's retiring, so if you don't have it, you need to get on it. And of course I brought one block down here like a goofball, but I'm gonna switch that out. Now I'm going to show you how we're going to use the Memento ink to stamp an area that we're going to color, and then we're going to use the classic ink also. So I'm just going to stamp this floral situation right here. Cool. And then I'm going to stamp the happy birthday that we are working with right there. So now I'm going to my classic ink. This is a navy ink pad. So it's going to go right here. And you probably can't even tell that that's navy versus black, but it is. And then, because I've got a lot of ink in my navy ink pad. And then you're going to go back in with your bottom part, just because this is prettier. And you're going to fill in with another floral section here. Voila. So now you've got your Memento ink is laid down, and then your classic ink is inked. And now it's time for coloring, which coloring makes me feel like a kid in kindergarten. I just love doing it. And there's lots of different ways to color. And I'm going to show you how to color with the blending markers. So we have all of these great blending markers in our color pattern. Not every color has a blend, and that is because not every color is able to be created in a blending, say, formula. But many of our colors have blending markers. They're sold in sets and in singles, but I'm telling you now that the single markers will end June 2nd or while supplies last. So if you have a single marker that you really, really use a lot, then go ahead and get it, because after June 3rd and on, you buy them as pairs. I love that you need them as pairs because people need both when they get them both. And look, they're only $9 for a pair. So that is even still cheaper than the one ink marker that you would buy that's a fancier type. Okay, so these are all of our blending markers. I'm going to grab them. I got my little bucket here with my blending markers. And I'm not going to color this whole thing because that's not the point of our video. The great Godzilla. Okay, but let me just show you how this might work. So this is a light calypso coral and a light calypso coral. That's funny. Usually I would have the light and the dark here. So you're just going to go in with your lighter color and fill that in. This is not a lesson about blending. That's an advanced technique. I'm just showing you how you're going to use the Memento ink pad with something that you're blending. So you're just going to fill that in with your blend markers. And I'm not mixing those colors at all. I'm just filling it in. So blah, 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 color the whole card. It's really pretty. But that's how you're going to use the Memento ink and blending markers. And then, like I said, the Stays On ink works with our watercolor pencils, not with the blending markers. So you need to make sure and have your blacks straight. Okay. Oh, and I need to explain something else to you. I made little notes because I knew I would go right over this. So when you're stamping, get back the navy. When you're stamping, there's two different kind of types of pads. So this is your foam pad. I don't know if you can see that, but it's a little layer of foam and it's very squishy. The Memento is a canvas pad and it's hard. Okay, so if I take my stamp and I smash it into the Memento, it's not going to really get ink around the edge here, okay? Because this is a hard pad, so you can bang on the Memento all you want, all right? And it's not going to cause what we are going to say overstamping, okay? But let me show you what happens if you bang into the, well, first I'm going to show you what to do, and then I'm going to show you what not to do. So when you're using the foam ink pad and you're stamping, what you want to do is give light but firm pressure. And I don't know how else to describe it except for one of our friends at Stampin' Up said, just say tap, tap, tap. So you're tapping it lightly. You're not ramming it. Okay, a lot of people think that more is more when we're stamping, but you don't need to ram it. You're tapping it lightly, but you're not smashing it into the ink pad. So when I do that, it's perfectly inked. And here's what happens if I smash it in there. Do you see what happened? The ink got all over the edge of that stamp. And then when I stamp it, well, this is a stamp, you're going to get that line, okay? It's called overstamping or halo. And you'll be mad because you'll have a pretty, pretty card that's all messed up now. So just light, firm pressure, but not ramming it into the ink pad. With Memento, you can smash it all you want because that is a canvas-based pad. So I may as well talk about cleaning our stamps right now since I've got that out. So we've got this great product called Stampin' Scrub. Now, a lot of times I just gather up all my pat inks, my stamps, and at the end of the night of stamping, I'll go run them all under water, and that's perfectly fine. You can do that. But also, if you want to clean them as you go, which is fun to do, then the Stampin' Scrub is great. So this is a great little contraption, and it's got a wet side and a dry side. So, and there's a little bitty, like, somewhere there's a little bitty icon that looks like a teardrop that tells you, but I usually just open it with the label on the front and know that the left side is the wet side. So you're spraying it with this stuff. Ew, that's nasty. I don't know what that is. Some unknown substance on the Stampin' Mist. But you're going to spray it onto your pad here. And then you're going to scrub it into the wet area. And then over here into the dry area. Now, you're going to get your stamps super clean that way. All right, you're going to get in all the grooves and everything. So, and especially if you're using like this Memento ink, if I just went and wiped that like on with a baby wipe or something, it may not get that fully cleaned. But if I scrub it over here and scrub it over here, then it's going to be perfectly clean. Now, warning, if you've got your card right here and you scrub back and forth, then you're going to spray ink all over your surface. So when you're washing your stamps, just kind of protect your area, and then because it will splash everywhere. And then just to clean your Stampin' Scrub, you run that under water. That's it. So just to wash out all that ink every so often. You don't have to do it every time you use your stamps, but that's how that works. Okay, let's talk about adhesives. We have lots of different types of adhesives. All right. We have a fine tip glue pen, which I don't have with me because I don't even own one because I make a big mess with it. But some people are huge fans of it to put down sequins or tiny things. So it's a great glue. It's a very thin glue, but it comes out, I'm talking fine tip, like your finest tip marker that you would use. That's what that is. Foam strips are used for making shaker cards and things like that. I'm not going to really show you about that. That's more advanced. But let's talk about glue dots. So glue dots are awesome. They come in a little box. We sell one size of glue dot, which works for everything. It's called a mini glue dot. And here's what I recommend. You start from the end of your glue dots and you work your way forward until you find one. That way you don't miss one, okay? So keep going until you find one. Now, our instinct is to rip this off, but you don't want to do that until, like if I'm putting this away, you want to wrap it at least all the way around all the glue dots that are showing, and then you can tear that off, okay? But that'll keep you from losing a bunch of glue dots. But let's go again and find our most furthest, our closest glue dot is right here. Okay, now this is what you're going to tend to do if you're a brand new stamper. You're going to want to pick up that glue dot with your finger and put it onto your paper. Okay, but don't do that. That's making things way too hard. So what you want to do is take your paper, lay it right down on the glue dot and press, and it pulls right up. Okay, press, press. Now you don't have to put your layer down with glue dots, but it works great. Glue dots work awesome for that. But usually we would use a different type of adhesive for that. But I was just giving you some instructions. You can use them for anything. They're great for putting down ribbons, for putting down embellishments. They hold really good, really well. And also you're going to need glue dots to do anything that's glittery. It holds great. So you need glue dots. Now, the other way you can deal with a glue dot is to pick it up with your scissor. So you can go like this, pick up a glue dot, and then stick it to whatever you're sticking and smash it down like that. So that's another way to use your glue dots. And then I always put them back in the box because otherwise they roll out all over the place and then you're mad. All right, so let's go next to tear and tape. So this is a heavy duty adhesive and it holds boxes together. All right, so this is what you would use if you're making a 3D item. So I don't know, let's just pretend like we're gonna make a triangle out of this piece of cardstock. Obviously it's not going to be like this, but let's say we want this triangle to hold together. Okay, what you're going to do is put a layer of tear and tape. So at this point it's only sticky on one side, and when you stick this stuff down it is stuck. Okay, now you always want to take your finger and rub it over the whole piece to get it smashed down really good. Okay, that's a tip that I have. And then I usually just take my fingernail, but you can also take a scissor or take your pick tool, which I don't have down here, and just, instead of peeling it off from the edge, I peel it off from the side, and that makes it come off really easily. Okay, so pull it from the side, and then you're just going to line that up wherever you were trying to make it stick and smash that down. Okay, so now you've got this great triangle that's not going anywhere. This is fused. I mean fused. I can't pull it apart. All right, fast fuse. All right, now if you're watching this video after June 3rd, you'll know that we have a new product called something. I don't remember, and I probably shouldn't even say, but we're still going to sell fast fuse, but we're also going to have a runner of adhesive that is quite strong. So don't worry, we're getting some new things. Now, our friend, Mr. Snail, he's a great all-purpose adhesive, and this adhesive is also retiring. So I'm going to tell you how to use it now in case you need to use it between now and June 3rd, which is when our new catalog comes out. But on June 3rd, we're going to have a great heavy-duty adhesive that it's going to be as cool as Snail, but a little bit stronger. And then we're going to have another runner that's as cool as tear and tape, but a little bit stronger. Okay, so just be aware. But when I'm using Snail, what I usually do is I put my finger here, okay, on this rigid part, not down here, but on the rigid part, and then that lets me know which way to hold it. That if I hold it this way, there's no ridge. So make sure your finger's on the ridge part, and then you have to open it. Okay, and then the sticky is right here. So you're just going to set it against your paper, and you don't have to press very hard. It just comes right out there, and you're going to put, I usually actually just put a little bit in each corner, a little bit in the four corners, and then that sticks right down as a layer. Now, oh no, what if I put that down crooked? You can pop that right back up, and you can stick it right back down. Okay, so Snail is nice because it allows you to reposition things. So the less strong adhesive is great for putting all these layers of card together. Okay, now if this layer had a bunch of fancy embossing, or if it were glittery, then I would probably use tear and tape or glue dots. So Snail is great when you're putting paper layers together, but if you're putting other things onto paper, then you want to use something like glue dots or tear and tape, or even dimensionals, which is what we're going to get to next. But I want to show you also how to refill your Snail if you've never done that before. So this is like a $7 contraption, but the refill is only $4.50. So you're going to pop this open. You're going to take this yellow holder out. You're going to pop this out. You're going to throw this away. I won't actually throw that away because it's still got Snail in it. And then you're going to keep this gray part, okay? I just put a piece of tape on it so I'll know which ones are mine. And then you're going to click this in, and now you're ready to go again. So that really reduces your price of what it costs to use adhesive. Now, are there other adhesives on the market? Yes. But as a happy shopper or demonstrator, I can get my Snail adhesive for 25% off. So you can do the math, and it's pretty comparable to what you can find in big box stores, and it's better. So, all right, let's talk about Tombow glue, or liquid multi-purpose glue. I just have it in this little holder because isn't it cute? I made that once and I love it. But this glue is awesome. It holds down pretty much anything to anything. Some people use this for their card layers. I usually use it to stick down things like, I used it right here to stick this ribbon down onto this, And I also used it to stick these little felt pieces down to this. So it's actually just a white glue. It's a little bit different than Elmer's, but I haven't used it in a while, so we'll see if it comes out. Yes, it comes out great. So it's got a little fine tip on one end, and then it's got a kind of a great tip that you can squeeze it out with. This one's about out. And then you can use that tip to smear it all around the card. So that gets it nice and covery, okay? So those are the two sides of our green top glue. It's pretty awesome. All right, and dimensionals. Is there anything better than a Stampin' dimensional? I'm quite certain not. And the reason why ours are so awesome, I thought that I brought all the different kinds down here, but I think they may have slid out of my box. Okay, so we make a large dimensional. They're hexagonal in shape, okay? And that makes them very efficient on this piece. So you get, in one package of dimensionals, you get 300. All right. So that's a lot of dimensionals. And they're double-sided sticky. But right now, only one of the sticky sides is showing. Once I peel that off, then it's double-sided sticky. But let me show you how you would use it. So let's pretend like we're going to stick something down to our card. This card is getting kind of ugly. All right, we're going to stick this nice stamped piece onto our card. So we're going to just put a few dimensionals on here. We're going to take the backing off. And these things will litter your house until doomsday. Oh my gosh, it's already 8. I cannot believe it. We're here. All right, and you're going to stick that down as it pops up your cute stamped area on your card. Okay, so there, that's what dimensionals are. We also have a small dimensional that's called a mini dimensional. It's a lot smaller, so you can use it for tiny things. And we also sell black dimensionals, which are great when you're sticking black things down to black things. And I've covered pretty much everything that I wanted to cover, so I'm super excited about that. I'm going to stop the recording, and I want to make sure that you guys that are watching don't have any questions.